Welcome to Coast Vue, the show that every single day celebrates the men and women who are making this place, coastal Mississippi, such a great place to live, work, and play. I've got a couple of quotes I want to share with you this morning. One is from my friend Susan Myers-Griggs, a very special person. I really enjoy my friendship with her, but she posted this. No one in this world is pure and perfect. If you avoid people for their mistakes, you will be alone in this world. So judge less and love more. That's really good advice. And it kind of speaks for itself. I came across these three quotes. We're going to have a bit of a musical conversation today, and I'll introduce my guests here in just a second. But these are three quotes. One is by Bob Marley. See if this doesn't sort of ring true for you. One good thing about music, when it hits you, you feel no pain. When it hits you, you feel no pain. That's certainly true about music as it relates to me. Let's see. Hans Christian Andersen. Where words fail, music speaks. Man, is that true. And then lastly, this is from Plato. So we're going to get a little bit of philosophical, contribution here. Music is a moral law. It gives soul to the universe, wings to the mind, flight to the imagination, and charm and gaiety to life and to everything. Man, that is so true. One of the interesting things about my conversation with Robert St. John is that we had yesterday was just so much fun to talk to Robert about life. But during the break, we were talking about how one of my friends has all these different genres in the same playlist. So you might hear hard rock 1 minute and country the next, and you might hear classical the next. I don't like to listen to music like that. If I'm in a Mozart or Vivaldi or Beethoven mood, that's what I want to listen to. If I'm going to think a lot, I want to hear exclusively Mozart. If I'm in if I'm out running or whatever, I like to listen to Coldplay. And I just want to listen to Coldplay. Now, it can be a Coldplay channel on Spotify, for example, and I can hear some others that are like Coldplay. But when I'm in that Coldplay mood, I want to hear that kind of music. I don't want to hear a mix of genres. But either way you look at it, it definitely brings charm and gaiety to your life and to everything, as Plato puts it. You know what? Today is a special treat for me because I'm going to be reliving some time that I spent. I started playing drums when I was in the 5th grade and played all the way through high school, played drums after that, played in a little country music band along the way. And I just, once a drummer, always a drummer. Once you're in music, you're always in music. And I'm so pleased today to be joined by my dear friend, someone who we played drums together in high school, and he's gone on to be an incredible band director and a composer of music. And his name is Greg Fhiares. He's from Gulfport, and he's just someone I have always been incredibly fond of. And I'm just thrilled to have Greg on Coast Vue today. How you doing, my friend?
Doing good, Ricky. How you doing?
It's great to see you. It's great to see you. I've really enjoyed following you on social media, and it's interesting because I remember when you posted about you had this first composition that got published, and then since then you've gotten sort of prolific. But once I started to study your story, once you left Gulfport East, and you got into college, you became a really prolific writer, writing music, writing drum cadences, and I guess that was always in you. I'm not surprised because you were incredibly talented at the time, but it's been part of your soul almost all of your life, hasn't it?
Oh, yeah. Really since I was 16. A lot of things I did, you probably didn't know about. When I first started, I bought a book on transposition of instruments. I said, well, I'll decide to write. And, I'd started writing for small, little groups. Of course, during high school, I went over to the 2 junior highs and taught the drum lines over there, taught them some of the things that we knew. And I'd go over to BioView or East Junior High and give them a little cadence, teach them a few things, and from there, that's where it all started.
Again, what's interesting, Greg, is that you were really a good drummer, and I could tell always that you were a quick learner, and you were very good at reading music, but you were shy. You were so shy, and you didn't let on. Do what now?
I'm not as quiet anymore, but that's something you grow into.
Yeah.
But I know in school, I was always a very quiet person. I mean, somebody would come up to me, I'd want to go hide in the corner sometimes. But band was the big thing for me. That's what got me through school.
Yeah.
A lot of kids are that way. Band is their thing, and that's when they get through it. And I finally decided that that's what I wanted to do.
Well, look, I've often said that band and my love of the outdoors are what saved me, because instead of going out gallivanting, I would rather just go out to Courthouse Road Pier and catch some redfish and sharks. That was during high school, and then in band, it saved me in so many different ways. I've talked about this before, but for people who don't fully appreciate it, when we were in band, especially under John Pearson, who was just an absolute incredible band director at a very young age, he was just an incredible band director. But what he taught us was discipline and the need for repetition and the need to be part of a team, and about being on time, and about being committed, and about being passionate. And it was a lesson in life. I don't think that we fully appreciate how much of a lesson in life it was, but it really, for me, Greg, it laid a foundation for me for future success.
Me too. I mean, blessed with several really fine band directors. Really, from back when I started in 5th grade with Fred Hogue, of course with John Pearson, Richard Smith, Blaine Curry. I mean, these guys were just amazing. I mean, and always put out great bands, had great players. Always had Lions band players.
Yeah,
that's still a big thing for kids these days is to make that Lions All-State band and get to travel. Last year they went to Montreal. This year they're going to Boston. And it's a good thing to do. Of course, we went to our clinics and things and had to try out. You always beat me by a chair. It was really something. I tell people, I said, Ricky Matthews beat me by 1/10 of a point for first chair.
But come back to the spirit of competition. I mean, whether it was individual excellence in playing the drums, or whether it was the excellence that we strive for as a band, whether it was in concert band or marching, people who aren't engaged in that, they don't appreciate what we're doing to these young people and what's happening in their minds around learning the music and reading the music and being part of this effort to strive to excellence. I mean, it's life-changing kind of stuff, but I really enjoy, thinking back at the sort of the competitive edge of it all. We took that stuff real seriously, didn't we?
Yes, we did. We took it very serious, and we had to. With the two band directors we had in high school, we had to with John Pearson and Dave Sandage, and both of them, really tried to instill, that discipline. And, it was my way or the highway. You remember that?
Oh, I know. Hey, listen, man, gosh dang, man. Again, because I was always kind of independent minded, and I tell people older in my life, especially as a newspaper publisher and having my own radio show, having that independent mind is really important. But I was, I was described in fifth grade as Mr. Fidgets by one of my teachers. I was always, I'm sure that for teachers and for someone like John Pearson, which I can remember so well, many disciplinary sessions I had with him, that I drove them insane. I was that kind of that kind of person. But man, they were disciplined. They were definitely disciplinarians. Hey, listen, we're at the end of this section. When we get to the other side, we're going to continue our conversation, looking back on how our times in band together really changed our lives, and what I went off to paramedic school, and Greg Fhiares went off and ultimately became a composer. And we're going to share some of his music as well as we get into this conversation. So we'll see you after this break. Welcome back to Coast Vue. I have my friend Greg Fhiares with me. We were in band together in high school. We both played drums. He went on to college and became a prolific writer and extraordinarily good musician. And he's composing music. In fact, we're going to share some of his music here before the show is up. But when we went to break, we're talking about the influence that our band directors had on us. When I think back, Greg, let's take John Pearson again as an example. When we did these shows that were focused around, like, for example, Blood, Sweat, and Tears, did he listen to the music and write the compositions himself? How did we get so good at that, and where did the music come from?
Well, he probably listened to the record. Back then, it was the vinyl.
Yeah,
and would come up with it. And he once told me, he said, "No one knows your band better than you do," and that stuck with me through the years. And that's very true. He would probably sit down either with a piano or and just play the record and listen and just jot it down. I mean, it was amazing. We were playing top 40. This day and time, of course, it's different. It's a lot different due to copyright laws.
Right.
Got to be very careful, and and I understand now as a composer how important that is. But Mr. Pearson would just sit down and just next day he would have something written, and it's kind of strange how that turned about. But we'll talk about how I started as far as writing percussion. When I was in college, I need to tell you a little bit about that. This is what really was amazing was they would hand me a score when I was at Mississippi State. They would hand me a score, music, and I would say, okay, they'd say, okay, you've got 2 hours to write this drum part. And there was no finale music program. It was just my scribble. And I mean, it was 2:00. Drum rehearsal was at 4. Band was at 5. So Mr. Hale or Dr. Seals would come in with the score and say, we need a drum part. And I did that for 4 years. And I got better at it. And in the meantime, I did the same thing that I did in high school. I would go out and do 2 or 3 different drum lines during, like at night. I would leave band practice at 6 and have to be in Greenwood at 7:30 for practice. And we practice till 9 and then drive back from Greenwood to Starkville. So it's just the way it went.
But what was interesting, you really was interesting because there wasn't like this big ramp up when you left high school. You had been again, most of us had no idea that you had been as deep in composition of drum parts and the work that you were doing to understand music and all of that. So when you got to Mississippi State, quickly you became sort of the principal percussionist for the symphonic band. You were doing arranging for the, as we know it now, the Mississippi State famous Maroon Band. You played drums in the stage band, which is a whole nother dimension to the music. And And then, of course, you got very significantly into composition and arranging. I'm blown away looking back at that because I know how complicated that is, especially if you think about the drum parks that exist today, Greg. While we had a unique opportunity at Gulfport East to have exposure to one of the greatest drum and bugle corps men in the United States, and Marty Hurley, who we learned from, and while we were really on the cutting edge, a lot of what we were doing as a high school band was significantly cutting edge, and that helped each of us kind of step up our game. Today's world is all drum and bugle corps for the most part. It is highly technical with multiple complex parts. And the fact that you can write all of that and think of that and have that stuff flow out of your head, that's incredibly impressive.
I tell you, it's a gift to me. My music, as far as that come by kind of honestly. My dad was a singer and was on the Ted Mack Original Amateur Hour. He sang, and I always asked him to sing. And when I was little, we got this golden book collection of music, and one of them was selections of classical music, and there was a baton in the box with the record. So I would get that baton and I would conduct anything. I would conduct to the theme of cartoons. This is at 6 years old. So, it kind of was in me back then. But I credit my dad. He left us a little too early. He passed away when I was not quite 9 years old. But I do remember, and I do have recordings of him, and from back in the 40s.
Yeah, it's interesting because I remember that well about your story, even from back in those days. I remember going to your house and how kind your mother was. Your mother was a special lady, wasn't she?
Yes, she was. She was. Music was always around the house too, because after my dad passed, we moved in with my grandparents, and my great aunt lived with us. And I'm telling you, my grandfather played guitar. My great aunt played the mandolin and the guitar. They would sit and play old Greek folk songs around the kitchen table. And when I got my drumsticks and my drum pad, I'd go in there and I'd play along with them. And it was a lot of fun. There was always a lot of music going on. My mom sang a little bit. She made a couple of little recordings with my dad, and so.
It's interesting. Listen, we won't do it now because unfortunately Skype won't enable this. We can't have both mics teed up at the same time. But before we started the show, I told Greg, who has a vivid memory of every drum cadence he's ever been part of, to play a drum cadence that we did in high school. And I haven't played it since high school. And we graduated in 1975, so we're dating ourselves now. But anyway, he started to play, and I played along with him, and it all started to come back to me. And what I think about that, Greg, is that tells you that the regimentation that we were part of, this do it over and over and over and over and over again, this strive for excellence, this crispness that you preach today, obviously, because what identifies a drum corps today is that they sound like one set of snare drums and they are all in sync. Well, we were doing that in high school in our way, but it drives it into your head, man. And it comes back to you. It's stored back there in a file somewhere. And I was amazed at how quickly it came back to me, but you hear that all the time, don't you?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's an everyday thing for me with music and things. Things pop in my head when I least expect it.
Yeah. It's so interesting. And the memories that come back. Hey, why don't we do this? I want to get one of your segments in before we get done with this. Kyle, how are we doing on time? How much time we have on this segment? Okay, so why don't we do this? Why don't we play, is Synchronized Energy your first one?
This is the one that was probably my best seller.
Yeah.
And,
so I'll let you I'll let you tell about it on the other side. So we'll play it to the break, and then we'll pick up on the other side and we'll talk more about it. But this is one of the compositions that Greg wrote. Go ahead, Kyle. So that was Synchronized Energy by my friend Greg Fhiares. He wrote that, and it's as he pointed out before we started to play, it's one of his best sellers. We'll talk more about that particular song on the other side, and we'll play some of his other music. So it's a walk down memory lane for me as I appreciate this incredible composer that Greg has become, and we'll see you after this break. Welcome back to Coast Vue. My friend Greg Fhiares with us, and when we went to break, we were listening to Synchronized Energy, and it incidentally was performed in the 2018 Midwest Band and Orchestra Clinic, and it was also selected to the Band World Top 100. And we'll be listening to Country Tune from County Perry here in just a second. But hey, describe the kind of music that is. Like what grade level? What's your target audience for the bands that would play that music?
Well, when I taught in mostly small schools, and this is a grade level. This was grade level 1.5, which out of all the grades, there's grade 0.5 to grade 5, 5 being the most difficult, 0.5 being beginner band. So this is basically made for a small school or a junior high program. And it's a funny thing of how I came up with this. This tune was actually a friend of mine. It was my roommate that passed away, listened to it and said, "Oh boy, this is a winner." And at first, I was going to name it "Rippin' and Runnin'." That's the funny thing about it, because I had two colleagues of mine that this is dedicated to, Otis Carter and the late Julius Hunt, who I worked with at Moss Point. And I'd always ask them, "Why? What are you doing today, Prof?" They said, "Well, we're just going to be ripping and running." So I called it that. Well, when it went to the publisher said, "We need something more appropriate." So I was going to call it Energize. But a good friend of mine, Steve Stringer, who was assistant band director at Southwest Community College, said, "Well, what about Synchronized Energy?" I said, "Hey, that'll say it's stuck." So it's a crazy story.
It's good. It's good. You know, it could be the score to a movie. You know, it has sort of a movie composition feel to it.
Well, I don't know about that, but it has been played quite a bit. I'm fortunate that give a little plug here to my publisher, Walter and Janet Cummings, with Grand Mesa Music Publishers in Grand Junction, Colorado. Walter was a band director in Mississippi a long time ago, and he started this company and recently retired. I'm fortunate they gave me my start in 2015 with my first piece, Pirates Cove Adventure, which is still being played. And it was amazing when I got the call from the band director in Texas at Keller Middle School saying that this synchronized energy was going to be played at the Midwest Band Clinic. And there's a lot of composers that don't ever have that done. I've had two.
Yeah, that's you mentioned Pirate Adventure, right? Is it the name of that song?
Pirates Cove Adventure.
Yeah. I remember when you posted that. We should have played it today, in fact, but it's really good. I thought when I listened to that's a winner in and of itself. In 2021, though, you composed Country Tune from County Perry, literally Perry County. That's what you were writing it after, you told me.
I was the band director at Richton for a year, and I had a couple of friends that taught in the Perry County school systems at Richton and at Perry Central. And we were sitting around one day. I was chatting, and they said, talking about the Percy Granger tune, Irish tune from County Derry.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, what about Country Tune from County Perry?
It actually was one of 7 winners at the, one of 7, at the Grand Mesa Music Publishers composition contest, and it's got some other accolades as well. Why don't we play about a minute of it, and we'll come back on the other side and we'll talk a little bit more about it. But this is Country Tune from County Perry. That's Country Tune, a segment of Country Tune by from County Perry by Greg Fhiares. It's interesting, Greg, when it first started, I immediately, I don't know what came, this is what came to mind. I could see the Munchkins and Munchkins Land on The Wizard of Oz when it first starts. It had that kind of a feel to it, Has anyone else told you that?
No one's told me that. This is actually what I thought of as a ride through the country on a Sunday afternoon. And at the end, you stop at a farm and you're getting chased by a bull. That's why it speeds up at the end. So it's I taught in rural schools for most of my career. So, this was kind of a special little thing. Picking a country ride out, out in the country on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, I actually, that was sort of the initial when it just started, but then as you continue to listen to it, I could feel sort of being in downtown, a small town, and there being a country fair there, and that's kind of playing in the background, and all the people are gathering, and it has that kind of a feel to it. It's a special song, and it has gotten a lot of accolades, actually. And did it surprise you? Did you know you had a winner when you did it?
Well, actually, when I sent this in, I sent 6 tunes in for this contest. 3 were finalists. And this was the one that I said, well, out of the 3 that I least expected to get it. And then the next thing I know, I'm getting a letter saying congratulations. And I'm saying, wow. And it actually has caught on pretty good. I had a band director from Iowa contact me yesterday, basically because she wanted to play on a concert and wanted to know how to pronounce my last name, which a lot of people have trouble doing.
Hey, Greg, when you get a call like that, it's got to be the best reinforcement you can get.
I've made so many friends through my music, especially Synchronized Energy. That really, things started really taking off because the thing is on several state lists. I've got several friends from Texas, especially that first year, but that was the COVID year. There were like 70 bands that were going to play it at festival. Half of them got to play it, but the other half didn't because of COVID. So I've met so many composers when I went to Midwest in 2018, and I made some friends and saw some composers that I played their music when I was teaching, and I'm saying, oh my gosh, I'm meeting this guy, and they're just nice as they can be. The composer world is some very nice folks.
Hey, let's do a quick check. We have 2 other compositions, but these are marching band compositions, right?
Right.
Okay.
This is some of the new things that have come out with new company.
So, hey, Greg, let's do this. We got the final segment to do, so we'll squeeze just snippets of both of them in and talk about this part of what your composition is all about. But we're visiting with my old friend. I drummed with him at Gulfport East, and he's gone on to compose music and do some amazing things. But we'll continue our conversation with Greg Fhiares on the other side. See you after this break. Welcome back to Coast Vue. We're having a conversation with my old friend, my dear friend. We drummed together at Gulfport East, and he went on to be a music composer, and we are in the process of just sort of telling his story. We played those 2 songs during that last segment, but these next 2, we're going to only play about 30 seconds of each. But the first one is called UFO. We'll play about 30 seconds, and we'll talk about it on the other side. But this is a marching band composition. So we'll see you, Kyle, if you can play. So as I listen to that, immediately it comes to your past as a percussionist and drummer. It was heavily influenced in that music for sure, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, kind of got to with the marching band end up.
Yeah. Okay, so talk to me about the next one that we're about to listen to.
Well, the next one we're going to listen to is A Night in the City. This was performed actually this year at marching evaluation by Green County High School Band. It depicts just a night on the town. There's 3 segments to it. There's a night on the town, There's also a segment where you're sitting in a bistro and having a meal and just chilling and listening to the jazz music. And then the last thing, you're back on the town, you're back with all the nightlife going on, and it's kind of a funky sounding thing. So
okay, so we'll only play about 30 seconds, but we'll give you a flavor of it. So this is Night on the Town. Well, again, the marching band sound these days is really dependent on percussion. Percussion drives the music, doesn't it?
It does.
So you had the right experience in order to be a composer of that kind of music, didn't you?
Well, like John Pearson said, your band better than anyone else. And when you're thinking of a small group or a young group, like the band that played this had 30 members in it. So you've got to think, okay, what can I do to make this band sound the best it can sound? I mean, what I do a lot with a lot of my clients is I'll sit down, I'll get on the phone with them, and I'll say, look, okay, what do you want me to do? What's your instrumentation? What kind of theme do you want? When I get it, I'll get back with them during the season. If I have to rewrite something, I do it. That's just the way I am. And I've always been that way. And, it's really great. I'm getting a chance to do this, as far as publishing marching band stuff. I've, mostly been doing concert band. And this new publisher that I'm with, Tux People's Music, out of Texas, Jarrett Davenport, has given me a chance to do this. Plus, besides these 2 marching shows, I have 7 new concert pieces coming out in just a couple of months, and they're being recorded right now by some college groups. So
more sophisticated music, more big sound music, because we're talking about, how many 100 people in the band? How many?
Well, in the bands that are recording, it's just going to be their symphonic band, their top group, maybe about 70 or 80 playing.
Yeah.
And of course, a college group will play. You have more of a chance to work on things, because high school groups are getting ready for contests, which is actually in about a couple of weeks. So they're not going to have very long to get ready. And I'll give a plug out to my 3 colleges in Mississippi that are recording. Jones College is recording, Dr. Ben Burge, Copiah Lincoln Community College, Juanita Prophet, and Pearl River Community College, Mike Bass. They're all, they took time out of their schedule to record 2 apiece.
Wow.
And of course, it's a lot easier music than what they are used to performing, but the kids are buying into it.
Well, Greg, listen, we're coming out to the end of our time together, but as more of your music starts to get published and recorded, we'll have you back, and we'll enjoy being on this journey with you. It's incredible to see what you've done with your gift over all these years, and that at this time of your life when you could just be enjoying retirement, you're actually hitting your strides. So it's going to be fun to watch what you do with this incredible talent. Thank you for joining me today, my old friend.
Appreciate it, Ricky.
It's been a genuine pleasure. This has been Greg Fhiares, and have a great day, and we will see you tomorrow.